It's the holiday-themed 80s slasher, To All a Good Night, 1980. The tagline is, "You'll scream till dawn." In terms of Santa slashers and other Christmas horror films, this is relatively forgotten. The quality is pretty terrible in terms of the film, and the sound wasn't that great on set. I don't even know if they used microphones or whatnot. But I was kind of surprised. It was pretty decent. I liked it for what it was. You don't hear too many people talk about it, and if you do, they just say it's just another dull 80s slasher. And for being 1980, they really amped it up and made it really elaborate. You didn't really see death scenes or that many deaths piled on top to compete with other films at that point. Usually, if I would compare this to other films, other 80s slashers, I'd say it's kind of like a funeral home wrapped with sorority, House on Sorority Row, and Slumber Party Massacre, all those wrapped into one. So the premise is a group of libidinous sorority girls. They're so horny that they end up flying in guys on a plane to spend Christmas vacation. Now it's filmed in California and directed by David Hess, who played the villain in Last House on the Left. So he directs this film, and it's pretty decent, I'd have to say. Let's get into more specifics here. So it's like almost a revenge whodunit slasher with a hidden villain, and the Santa Claus like kills in so many different ways. With a bunch of different ones are done with an axe and then with a blade. And what else happens? So basically it's just the girls topless every other scene, and then the guys, they all have their own personality. You see, there's like enough conversation going around to keep you entertained throughout. It's not one of those 80s slashers where it's just purely stalk and slash with not much dialogue. So this one actually has like somewhat of a party going around at the sorority house, and then, not to get into too many specifics, I don't know if any people have seen it that much, but obviously I'd give it a C+ overall. Recommend it only for veteran 80s slasher. If you're a veteran 80s slasher, this is like one of the must-sees that you gotta have on your list. And anyway, for a more spoiler review, I'll go on to people who have seen it for the rest of this review now. So, we have a killer that appreciates cannolis. It's a vengeful killing, because in the opening scene we see a girl getting killed, and then there's references throughout that the killer is venging her death, and it ends up being both of her parents. And it's not the sorority house mother, but it's like the assistant sorority house mother. She's watching the girls for the weekend. And you're like, okay, this old crone, this old beldam ended up strangling and killing them all in elaborate ways, all these young 20-year-olds. And you totally don't buy into it. Then, like, the father's in on it too. It's kind of ridiculous. And then there's, like, one total, like, random thing that makes no sense. I have to like study the character. I'm probably going to rewatch it next Christmas to understand this part more. One of the characters, Leah, I think her name is, she ends up like tripping balls and going into a trance at the end of it, and that's like the final shot of the movie of like the killers get theirs. They end up getting a crossbow into like shot into one of the killers or both of them or something stupid, and almost like Final Exam style. And then what happens? Then like the girls like dancing around, And it does like freeze frame on her. There's also even a death where the kids get like thrown into the propeller of the plane, the private plane that they flew in on. So yeah, pretty elaborate for 1980. You don't see it get that crazy that early on. And recommended for a holiday slasher. Oh yeah, it's like filmed in California too. It's like, oh yeah, nothing brings you into the Christmas mood than opening shot being of pine trees or palm trees. Whatever. I'm out. To all a good night, 1980 slasher.